So today we will be starting with our horizontal alignment, and in this we will be covering a lot of topics which are related to the core geometrics of our highway design. But before going to this horizontal alignment, just a minute. Yeah, before actually going to the horizontal alignment, actually we will be seeing why we require this horizontal alignment, or what do we mean by this horizontal alignment, and when does it come into picture. So if you have conditions such as you have a topography, okay, a topography which is tending your alignment to turn somewhere, either left or right. In a horizontal plane, I am just talking about. We are not considering the vertical alignment at present. Okay. So if you have a topography which is forcing you to change the direction of your alignment, or you have obligatory points that we have seen in the first unit. And one of them is shown here, that you have a lake and then you have to take a detour. So if you have such a case, or if there is unwillingness from the people to provide a land, one example I have shown here, that there is protest by the farmers or the landowners against some highway project, or if there is some political influence. So all these are the factors. If some of this factor, one of these factor, or all of this factor, or combination of any of these factors, they are applicable to your project, highway project, then what will happen is you will be forced to or compelled to change the direction of your highway alignment. We have seen in the first unit that ideal requirements of our highway alignment, if we follow, so our alignment should be as straight as possible. But we know that we can't keep it straight always. Okay? And the reasons I have listed here, some of the reasons, that due to topography or obligatory points, or some unwillingness from the people or the stakeholders who are involved in this project. So due to this, you will be changing the direction of your highway alignment, and this change in direction brings into picture the study of the horizontal alignment. So that is why you need to study a horizontal alignment, or as a highway engineer, you should be knowing what are the components of a highway alignment, horizontal alignment, and how to calculate them. So this is the need of this study, or need of this topic. Then coming to the actual highway alignment. So what goes into this is, first of all, we'll be seeing the horizontal curves, or what do's or don'ts and what condition you require so that your vehicle, it traverses the horizontal curve very safely, and what are the conditions in which it doesn't travel safely and it is either overturning or skidding. The conditions we'll be seeing shortly. Then the second thing that we'll be covering is the superelevation. Now, I'm sure many of you must have heard this term at some point of time. You might have covered in short during your course in railways also, where you had seen this superelevation part, that you have a curved railway track and then you provide a superelevation. So on the similar line, we'll be seeing that for a highway. Then there is something called widening on curves. Okay. So on curves, you have something called a mechanical widening and psychological widening. So that we'll be covering. And the last part, an important one, is the transition curve. Now this is sort of a necessary curve to be provided in combination or in lines with your circular curve that you provide. So these are the four main topics that we'll be covering in this horizontal alignment section. And we'll start today with the first one, that is the horizontal curves. So coming to a horizontal curve, just if I try to write the definition, so it is nothing but in a plan or from a top view, it is a curve which is given to provide a change in direction. So that's an obvious thing or obvious statement I've just written here. So the center line of your road, it is changing a direction, and that's why you are providing this curve. Now this horizontal curve, or if you consider a simple circular curve in it, you might have any shape of curve, a circular curve, a compound curve, or any other curve. But if you consider a simple circular curve, which is most of the cases provided in highways. So this curve, it is designated by two terms. One is by the radius of the curve in meter, and second is the degree of the curve. Now this degree, it is nothing but the central angle which is subtended by arc of 30-meter length. So we all know that if you have a circle, and if suppose this is some length of the arc that I am considering here. So let's say this is the 30-meter arc that I am considering, and this is the center, and this is the radius r. So the basic formula that you have studied in mathematics, that is length of the curve, it is equal to radius into the central angle, if this is the central angle d, in degrees. Okay, so this is the formula that we all know. And if I just change this formula so that to incorporate the radians and degrees, so it turns out to be something like this. So r into d into pi by 180 is equal to 30, and then we come with this general formula for a radius of a curve. Now this is just for the introductory part. It's nowhere related to the future discussion that we are going to do, but you should be knowing that if you have a radius of a curve, so what is its degree, or if you have a degree of a curve, what is its radius, provided that curve is a simple circular curve. Okay, this will not be applicable to a compound curve or any cubical curve or a parabolic curve. It is only applicable for a circular curve, and that too we have taken the length of the curve as 30 meter. So this is the basics related to the horizontal curve. Then coming to the very famous thing that we all know related to a curve, that whenever an object, in our case that object is a vehicle, and in this example I have shown a car. So any object or a car, it is subjected to two forces when that car traverses a horizontal curve. And we know for a matter of fact that those two forces, one is the centripetal force which is acting towards the center of your curve, and another is the centrifugal force which is acting away from the center of the curve. Okay, and both these forces, they are acting on the CG of your vehicle that you have considered. So the same thing is shown here, and the same is narrated here. Now this centrifugal force, if we focus on, because we all know that centripetal force, it's okay, it's sort of a positive one, or the kind of force that we need, or we try to increase that magnitude of the centripetal force. But the force which is damaging, or which is going to be damaging our vehicle or the system that we are considering a highway and a vehicle, so that is the centrifugal force. And this centrifugal force, it depends on two terms mainly. It depends on what is the radius of this curve. So if you have a very sharp curve which is having a very small radius, so small radius means it is a sharp curve. Okay? So less r, it means your curve is sharp. So just remember this. Okay? So sharp curve, that means there is a lot of centrifugal force that will be acting on your vehicle, and then you have to come up with some counteractive measures so that it is reduced. And the second parameter on which the centrifugal force depends, that is the speed of the vehicle. So with what speed your vehicle is traveling or traversing the curve, that will also decide that how much is the centrifugal force acting on your vehicle. So simple, just to experience this, you might have also experienced this. If someone of you must have driven a four-wheeler or a two-wheeler on a highway, and if you are traversing a sharp curve, suppose you are traveling on the Pune bypass of a Mumbai-Bangalore highway, and if you are coming from, or if you are traversing that Chandani Chowk section, so there is a sharp curve that you have to take, either left or right, depending on the direction you are traveling. So on that curve, if you are traveling by a speed greater than 60 or 80, so you might experience a force on your hand, on your steering, basically, that you try to maintain the steering so that your vehicle is on path. So that force that you experience on the steering and basically on your hands, that is nothing but your centrifugal force that you are trying to counteract by adjusting the direction of your vehicle and also maintaining the speed at the same time. So if any one of you must have passed through that section, the speed limit sign on that curve is 80, but even on 80 you experience some kind of force. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that in centrifugal force, it depends on that two factors, radius and speed of vehicle. And just a minute. Yeah, and if you consider the formula, because we will be dealing with the design aspect, and in the design aspect we will be interested in the formulas. So the centrifugal force, if I denote it by P, so its formula is WV square upon GR. Again, this is the one that you must have studied in your 11th, 12th, or even in mechanics or some physics part. So I'll not go into detail, just I'm giving this formula so that we'll be dealing with some terms which are related to a concept of horizontal curves and horizontal alignment. So W is your weight of vehicle, R is the radius, V is the speed, and G is the acceleration. So if I just modify this formula a bit, modify as in, if I just take this W term on the left hand side, so I get this formula, P by W is equal to V square upon GR. And in this formula, this P by W that we have, so that is known as the centrifugal ratio. Okay. Now we will be requiring or needing the centrifugal ratio, or this ratio will come into picture in our next discussion. So that's why I'm focusing on this term. So remember, in your centrifugal force formula, after rearranging the terms, whatever P by W value you get, so that P by W is nothing but a centrifugal ratio or impact factor. And that centrifugal ratio, it is very much important if you are not providing any counteractive measures to your centrifugal force or to the curves, basically. Okay. So P by W, you can, even if instead of P by W, it's V square upon GR somewhere. So that is nothing but the centrifugal ratio. Now, we are talking about this centrifugal force a lot. So exactly what happens when this centrifugal force comes into picture or comes into your system, where you have a highway or a road and you have a vehicle which is traversing a curve, horizontal curve on that road. So due to the centrifugal force, mainly there are two effects. The first one is your vehicle, or there will be tendency to overturn the vehicle outwards about the outer wheels. Okay. So again, coming back to the scenario that I was telling you, that if you're traversing on that Chandani Chowk curve, so you will be experiencing some force on your steering, and you will be trying to counteract that force. And in case, suppose unfortunately you couldn't counteract that force, so one of the things that can happen is your vehicle may overturn about the outer wheels. Outer wheels as it, the wheel towards the center of the curve, that is the inner wheels, and the wheel away from the center of the curve is the outer wheel. So your vehicle will tend to overturn on those outer wheels if your vehicle or you as a driver, you are not capable of counteracting that force, centrifugal force. And another thing that can happen is, if it is not overturning, then in that case it may happen that your vehicle may skid laterally. Okay, so it's just off tracking. So many of the times, if you see on curves, especially on a highway curve, if a vehicle is traveling with a high speed, and if the driver loses the control, so that vehicle, it directly goes into the median or the crash barrier, whatever is installed. Okay, it directly hits it straight away. So it hits because this is coming into picture that the vehicle is skidding laterally due to this centrifugal force. Okay. So these are the two main scenarios or effects of your centrifugal force. And as a highway engineer, it is our responsibility that when you design a highway, you should look into it that these two things never take place on your highway. Now, obviously, there are factors on which this will depend, and the most important factor, which is not in our hand as a designer, is the speed of the vehicle. Okay, though we design the highway for a particular speed and we put a speed limit sign, but it's up to the driver individually who is driving the vehicle that what speed he or she follows. So, if obviously if the speed is of a very much higher value than the limit or the design speeds, so obviously it's bound to overturn and skid and accidents are bound to happen. So in that case, it's not much of a thing that as a designer you can have, but as a safety engineer, then you can do some counteractive measures there. So that's a totally different uh, topic that you'll be covering in the third unit. So coming back to our discussion, this effect of centrifugal force. So now we'll be seeing that what can we do to avoid this overturning and skidding of vehicle. So first we'll be looking into the overturning aspect or overturning effect. So basically what is there in overturning effect if I try to draw a force diagram, a free body diagram mainly. I've taken a truck just because the front view is quite big and you can visualize it. So at the CG of this truck is obviously traversing some curve, and you can see I have mentioned or marked the sides, inner side and outer side. Inner side is nothing but it is towards the center of the curve. So somewhere here you have the center of the curve, okay, and outer side is the away one. And at this CG, if I consider two forces, this is the one which we are looking to counteract, the P or the centrifugal force, which is acting away from the center of the curve. So this is the centrifugal force P, and obviously you have vehicle weight, self weight, which is capital W, which is considered here. And if I consider the CG, so that CG is located somewhere at height h from the ground level, small h. And the wheels of this vehicle, A and B, the front wheels, which we can see. So you have this, obviously that CG is symmetrical, or it is at such a point that your vehicle is symmetrical, or vehicle structure is symmetrical about it. So the wheels, they are at a distance of b by 2 on both the sides from this CG, okay, or the total distance, center to center distance between this A and B, that is nothing but B that we are looking into. Okay, so that's it's B by 2. Now in this system, if I consider at B, okay, simple, you don't have to do anything. You have to just find out the moment at this point B. Okay, now you know how to find out moment. You have a force. Okay, you have two forces in this picture. You have this first force, which is centrifugal force P, and you have the second force, which is the self-weight W. Okay. You have the forces, you have the distances from the point P, that centrifugal force is acting at a height of h from the point B, and the self-weight W, it is acting at a distance b by 2 from this point B. So we know the force, we know the distance. You can just find out the moment at this, about this point B. Now why we are considering this point B, because I told you that overturning, it will happen about the outer wheel. So in this case, your B wheel is the outer wheel because it is on the outer side and away from the center. So that's why it's necessary to calculate this moments at B. So first moment, if I find out the overturning moments, we all know that centrifugal force. Now we have been telling that due to centrifugal force, there is going to be overturning. So obviously there will be an overturning moment due to this force P. Okay. And I just denoted it as that it is a MO. So it will be equal to P into H, simply the force into the distance. And another moment, if I consider this self-weight W, so this W will be sort of a restoring moment, because if I say that, or this is the magnitude P into H, but if I see the direction, so that direction will be somewhat like this for the overturning moment, okay? Because if you just keep a thumb at point B, and if you rotate your index finger in the direction of the force, you'll be getting the direction of the moment. So this is your overturning moment, MO, and contrary to that, you will be having a restoring moment. Now, why restoring? Because if you find out the direction of this moment, again, keep your thumb at B and rotate your index finger in the direction of force W. So this will be the direction of the moment MR. Okay, so the green one is the resisting moment MR, and the red one is the overturning moment MO. So if you see, both are opposite in direction. So if both are equal, then we can say that we have achieved a equilibrium, and then your vehicle is not going to overturn. Okay, so that's what I've written. Equilibrium condition is when both are same in magnitude, they are opposite in direction, so the effect will be nullified. So if I just rewrite the equation by substituting the values, so I get something pH is equal to WB by 2, and again if I just rearrange the equation so that I get P upon W on one side, so it comes out to be B upon 2H. Now if you recall, in the previous slide, a couple of slides before, I have told you this P by W is nothing but the centrifugal ratio. Okay, so this P by W is the centrifugal ratio, and it is equal to B by 2H. Now, if you see here, it's a level road, though it's a curve, so still it is a level road that we have considered. So this condition, centrifugal force is equal to B by 2H. If this condition is satisfied on a level road, okay, with no super elevation, that no edge is raised over the other edge, okay, if that is not the case, but you have a horizontal curve, so in that case, your vehicle will be stable as far as the overturning is considered. So it will not overturn if this is attained, that B upon 2H, it is equal to this, or centrifugal ratio, it is equal to this B upon 2H. So we know that centrifugal ratio, what will go into it is the centrifugal force, for which we have a formula, and W is the self-weight. Okay. Or simply if I write, instead of P by W, V square upon GR. Okay. So this is the condition that your vehicle has to satisfy. Now in this condition, if you are considering a particular vehicle, so this B and H, it is sort of fixed, because whatever vehicle you are considering, so this B and H, it depends on the dimensions of your vehicle. So there is not much you can change in it for a particular vehicle. Your G remains same, acceleration due to gravity. So what will play a major role in this equation is these two values, the speed and radius. So again, we are coming back to the same discussion, that these two are the entities which are affecting your centrifugal force as well. So obviously they will be affecting your centrifugal ratio, and in turns they will be affecting your overturning effect. So if that's what I was saying, that if this speed of the vehicle is way too high than your design speed or speed limit, so there is not much as a designer that you can do. That vehicle is bound to overturn, because you can just simply calculate your other dimensions being same, your centrifugal ratio will increase exponentially, or increase drastically, not exponentially, and that drastic increase will lead to not equal to this condition, that P by W will not remain equal to B by 2H, and that's why your vehicle will overturn. So to avoid the overturning, this is the condition that your vehicle should satisfy if you are not providing a super elevation. Coming to the second effect that we are seeing, that your vehicle may skid transverse or laterally outwards. So in this case, if I again draw the diagram, free body diagram, the forces. So again, we have that two forces. One is the centrifugal, one is the self-weight, W. But now in this case, what we are considering, or more interested in, the skidding effect. So skidding, we all know, skidding, it will come into picture when you have something to do with friction. And we have seen this one part of the friction or one type of friction when we were discussing the previous topic of side distances. So in that we had seen that this friction that we had considered in the side distance, that was the longitudinal friction. And now what we will be seeing here, or what we will be considering here, the friction, that will be the lateral friction, because it will be in the transverse direction to the movement of vehicle. So the frictional forces, if I see again the wheels A and B. So at A, you will be having a frictional force Fa, which can be given as small f. Now this small f is the coefficient of friction, but this coefficient is the lateral friction coefficient and not the longitudinal one. And capital Fa is equal to F into Ra, and Ra is nothing but the reaction that you are getting from the ground or the support of the highway. Okay. Again, this reaction came into picture because your forces have to balance themselves. So whatever is the self weight W which is acting downward, so to counteract that force, your pavement or the highway, it will be giving a support reaction Ra and Rb at wheels A and B respectively. So the same is shown here. Similarly, for wheel B, you have Fb is equal to F into Rb, and Rb is the reaction at wheel B. Now again, if I try to balance out the forces, so my centrifugal force P, which is acting on the outer side or the right side, it will be balanced by the frictional forces Fa and Fb. Okay. And if I just rewrite Fa and Fb, it will be frictional coefficient into the reactions. And these reactions, Ra and Rb, they are nothing but equal to the W, because those are the only forces in the vertical directions. Okay, so P is equal to F upon W. And again, if I rewrite in terms of P by W, it is equal to F. So my centrifugal force ratio, it is equal to the coefficient of lateral friction. Coefficient of lateral friction. So this is the condition. If it is satisfied, then you can say that your vehicle will not skid laterally in the outward direction. And if it skids, so somewhere you have damaged this condition that P by W is equal to F, and your frictional factor of coefficient of friction, it has gone way beyond, or the centrifugal force ratio, it has increased way beyond your coefficient of lateral friction. So that's the meaning that your vehicle is skidding transverse direction. Okay. So these were the two conditions that I wanted to show you. So if we are not providing a superelevation, okay, so if superelevation is not provided, and we'll be seeing what superelevation is, but for now just understand that if superelevation is not provided, then in that case what you need to do is you need to make sure that your P by W or V square upon GR, whatever you may call, it should be equal to the frictional coefficient, lateral frictional coefficient, and at the same time your P by W or the V square upon GR thing, that should be equal to B by 2H. Now if you see, your vehicle has to satisfy both these conditions, that the P by W has to be equal to F and it has to be equal to B by 2H at the same time. If only one of them, if suppose this first condition is not satisfied, then your vehicle will skid laterally, and if this condition is not satisfied, then it will overturn. Okay. So now you see why superelevation is needed, because we can't say that both the conditions will be satisfied simultaneously. Okay. And as I told you, the speed factor is there into picture, that if speed increases beyond the design limit or the design speed of the speed limit, then it's not much of a thing that you can handle as a designer. you can't stop the overturning and skidding. Okay? And same is the case with the radius also. If the radius is very small, that means your curve is too sharp, then you don't have a much thing to do. In that case, you can just put on a speed restriction sign, but again, that can be simply violated by the drivers. So it's difficult to satisfy both these conditions. That's why it is essential to provide the super elevation in a system, or in the case of a horizontal curve on a highway. And what this super elevation is, that your outer edge, suppose this is the level road, so your outer edge, it is raised over the inner edge. So this is the outer edge of your pavement, and this is the inner edge. Okay, somewhere here you have the center of the curve. So this has to be done. Now this I'm showing in a section, that instead of having such a cross section, you have such a cross section in which the outer edge is raised by some value E, and this E is nothing but the super elevation. Okay. So in our next lecture, we'll be seeing how to provide this super elevation, or how to calculate it, or how to design it, and then we'll be seeing how we are actually providing it on field. Okay. So today's lecture, it's basic or a introductory one to go to the concept of super elevation. So why we go for super elevation? Because it's difficult for us to maintain both these equations, or both these conditions, that your centrifugal ratio, it is equal to the coefficient of lateral friction, as well as that centrifugal ratio, it is equal to the value of B by 2H. So due to this, we provide this super elevation value. So that's all for today. We'll stop here, and in tomorrow we'll be starting with, or we'll be actually looking into this concept of super elevation and how it is calculated.